Welcome to the Underground, the Steel City Underground, the black and gold standard for Pittsburgh Steelers coverage. Now, here's your host, Joe Kuzma.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Steel City Underground podcast. My name is Joe Kuzma, and I'm once again in the OnlyFans studio for SCU on the road. My mobile unit here from my hotel room in Latrobe, Pennsylvania, reporting to you from Pittsburgh Steelers training camp as I got a couple of sessions in. I was debating as to whether or not I wanted to go play-by-play on some of this. I've got just so many notes that are in my hands here. We had some news that just dropped. I had a gut feeling yesterday at practice. That would have been Wednesday. I saw Diontae Johnson was kind of chumming around a little bit more, a little more involved, a little more relaxed. Like he wasn't quite holding in, so to speak. And I would say hats off, but you know I don't take the hat off on this program. To my colleague, The Flash, Zach Celadonia, got to let him know that, got to give him the acknowledgement, man. He said it, he dropped it right here on the show. It's not like I disagreed with him by any means, and I don't want to sound like the smartest guy in the room, but he really did get the chance to put it in there, about an average of $16 million a year, which doesn't actually put Diontae Johnson too high on the pecking order of everything when it comes to the wide receiver, the escalating wide receiver salaries. I think he's something like maybe average per year might be somewhere around 16 or 17. I have to give that to Joe Rutter, or I should say Joe Ruder. I apologize. I've said his name wrong for so many times. It's just like Najee. Come on, folks. It all happens. My name is actually pronounced Joe Kuzma if you go old school, old country. And I know some folks have actually approached me or met me and have asked that before, believe it or not. But it's kind of like, there's an NBA player with my name, so everybody says Kuzma. It's just something that you kind of got used to. But anyways, I digress. I'm just kvetching about like one commenter that may or may not even be out there because they said they shut it off when I mispronounced someone's name. Baloney. Anyways, Diontae Johnson got his bag. Omar Khan is just knocking it out of the park. Chris Boswell just the other day, bringing on Larry Ogunjobi, of course, getting an extension with Minkah Fitzpatrick, who, of course, was taken off the non-football injury list for Thursday. Didn't really practice. He was kind of out there in the nether regions of Latrobe. And if I could actually end up pulling up the tweet for you, I will, because it was kind of funny. Somebody had said he was out there already practicing. Well, he was kind of practicing. He was not necessarily practicing. So there's a little bit of a difference if you get my drift. Kind of like the same thing with Diontae Johnson and where people were with kind of like throwing him under the bus. So here we go. I'll try and pull this up so everyone can hopefully see here what I've got on my screen. Give me just a short second and bang, there we go. And just I have a little bit of fun with life here, and if you notice, I can be a smartass at times. So you see that speck of yellow to the right? Everyone's gonna get on me because you know what? I didn't call it gold. I get it. You know what I mean? Wiz Khalifa's in my head. So that little speck, and we'll see if I can enlarge it just a little bit. This is Minkah right here. If you could see, I don't know if I got a cursor up on the screen or not. And on to the far left is where everyone's running the drills at the end of practice. That was about his involvement for the day. So got a couple of people who actually laughed or liked that little bit of source of info. But again, it's the media sometimes is out there, and some of the things they're reporting are not getting. I've mentioned this multiple times. I don't want to be beating a dead horse here, but like my notes, you hear it from the guys that are sitting there like Dale Lawley. They're doing the Steelers Nation radio program as it's live right in the Chuck Noll stands. And they're tents on the far side from where I was actually sitting today. And sometimes I'm in the stands, sometimes I'm in the field. Sometimes I try and post up and see some different things here or there. And you can even hear them on the radio sometimes. Did you catch a number on that? Pretty sure it was so-and-so. So sometimes it's you get it wrong. It's from a distance. Face it, these guys... You can see my For Life t-shirt available at Amazon Prime and TeePublic, by the way. Go check that out, steelcityunderground.com/shop. But right up to where the 4 is here, the FOR, or right below my chest, below my nipples here. Okay, so I'm a guy, I could say nipples, right? So you got the players that are like rocking like almost like the halter top style with their shoulder pads. It was hot as hell out there today. Let's just phrase that. I had my water bottle, not even like my my stainless steel one that I carry around. Another water bottle that I had. Oh, one of these guys, plastic bottle. This thing was sweating, and I refilled the stainless one. Of course, I use that, and I have something cool to refresh myself with. And hopefully, if any of you come out there, hydrate, please. You don't need anybody getting sick. Hopefully, the players as well are taking care of, I imagine, their bodies. But man, they got their uniforms like pulled up, so you can't see the numbers sometimes. I'm getting around to my point. It was hotter than hell out there. Last 2 days, 2 hottest days so far of Pittsburgh Steelers training camp. And actually, practice was going a little long for Tay on Thursday. We got heading into Friday night lights and then a Saturday session before they break on Sunday once again and start the new week, preparing for the first preseason game the following Saturday, by the way. So I'll be back at some point, probably catch up with Flash and discuss some of the Friday night lights stuff so you can enjoy your weekend. We got a Hall of Fame game coming up. Don't expect anything to really come of that, but football is officially back and it's here. So while Flash was out there earlier in the week and Kenny Pickett was getting, quote, first team reps, let's talk about that because it's something that was really kind of bothering me. It's been bothering me the entire time as to who's part of the first team. For example, you've got George Pickens and Anthony Miller pictured here. And George is rookie. And he's getting a lot of work, and Anthony Miller, to the same respect, getting a lot of work in, and not just the slot. He's playing all over the field. He's been a beast. He's been one of my players I've been most impressed with thus far at training camp. But with Diontae Johnson having the hold in, Chase Claypool's been babied along a little bit. What was it? A shoulder. This is the first team guys. For some, Miles Boykin you could throw in there, Calvin Austin to some maybe lesser degree with those two guys. It all depends on what they're trying to work on. Depends what personnel they're in. A lot of 12 personnel with 2 tight ends. We've seen a pony formation. It's actually 2-back set I have with Benny Snell and Anthony McFarland. That was like the first thing I wrote down for Wednesday's practice. And it just all depends, but Najee Harris, God, man, who is that? Matt Williamson, you've screwed me up on this. Hit me up. Somebody over at SNR, I don't know if it was Matt, but somebody there has screwed me up on it. Najee Harris has been out. Pat Freiermuth has been out. Returned to practice today for Levi Wallace. I'm trying to think who else was in and out. TJ Watt and Cam Hayward have gotten some veteran days off. They were back in pads on Thursday. Wednesday, they took a break from that. So if you want to say Kenny Pickett was with the ones and then Mason Rudolph's back with the ones, there's a delineation of Mitch Trubisky is running all of these drills. He's the first guy out there, but they are most certainly cycling the skill position players to a certain degree. You're going to have, like I said, Miller's going to be out there. Boykin's going to be out there. Cody White to some degree. It really seems like, except for the most part here, this guy, Kenny Pickett, is with everyone else. So 1s and 2s are really mixed together, especially right now with some of the players that are sitting out. And it's mixed together with once again, the last 2 days, Mitch Trubisky, Mason Rudolph. I'm not trying to BS you. I'm not trying to be biased towards Mason. You know, I kind of am in a certain way. Trubisky had a little bit better showing, I will say, as Wednesday went along. I think all of the quarterbacks are looking a little better, but I think Mason is still the guy that looks the best, if that makes sense. But they all have their shortcomings. They all have what they do better. So, like, Mitch is doing really well, like, moving around. But if he's in the pocket, it's been so. And you got to also take it with a grain of salt. Did this guy run a wrong route? Does this rookie not know where he's supposed to be? And you've got different guys dictating different traffic and everything. I probably have the notes somewhere here, and I might repeat it. I am going to go through everything that I have written down. But Mason, a lot of head fakes. He's in a lot of pump fakes. He's looking like very Ben. Come on, I know I'm going to get flamed for it, but the way Ben used to do it. He's throwing people off, and it's been very impressive to take a look at throughout camp. Mitch is obviously the more mobile guy. He's running around. He's making the backyard plays, and Mason's the guy that's standing in the pocket. But for the most part, like, the last 2 days, first team offensive line is out there, and they cycle through the tight ends, the wide receivers, the running backs. So you have everyone from Kevin Rader, who, by the way, I stand for a lot. Youngstown State alumni, just like me, right? For life, right? Penguins, if you didn't know that. One of the Otter mascots. Makes sense for hockey. Football, not so much. I mean, Penguins not very terrifying. At least they're not like the fighting Penguins. Put up your dukes. So Kevin Rader is making some combat catches, and he's had like 2 or 3 over the last couple of days. I know Jay Sternberger has been looking mighty sharp, but both of these guys are getting more reps because Pat Freiermuth is out. Rader's starting to sneak into he's going to be the tight end 3. And I know I've been really a stand for him. He's played well with special teams. He's a solid blocker. It goes without saying that Zach Gentry has really developed into a fine tight end himself. He's involved in the pass game. I called him like a Matt Spaeth 2.0, but he's a little bit more than that. He's like a 2.1 because of his hands, because of his ability in the pass game. So keep an eye on those guys, all 3 of those guys, when we get into these preseason games. Rader has made some really impressive catches, and I mean, at least 1 or 2 of those were Rudolph zooming them. I think one may have come from Kenny. We'll see what I got in my notes. I mean, only where he can get it comes down sidelines, just beautiful. It's the stuff. It's the making of a professional football player. But again, those are 3 tight ends that are cycling around. You got Benny Snell. You got Mateo Durant. Jalen Warren's been getting some praise everywhere. He's been pretty good in pass protection as well. Saw him also catch a pass, so that was kind of encouraging. Master Teague just got signed, formerly of the Ohio State University. So all these young guys, including Warren, they're getting some reps because Najee's been out, and we're going to see who ends up sticking to the roster. Warren could very well be the RB3. Remember, Trey Edmonds was released at the beginning of camp. Jeremy McNichols, who was signed in his place, IR, out for the season. What did he hurt? ACL? I'm trying to think. But he has an injury that he will not be back, and that's kind of unfortunate. They're probably looking for some more dynamics with him in the pass game. So some of these other young men are going to get a chance to stand out, and we'll see how it is. But they're all playing. You get the first team offensive line, which is also Thursday, alternated Kendrick Green and Kevin Dotson. I won't say which one was 1 or 2. They were both getting kind of like the equal separation. If I had to say it with the quarterbacks, it's been like 40-40-20, where the 40s are for Mitch and Mason, and the 20s for Kenny. If Kenny gets in, sometimes it's 50-50 and Kenny isn't getting the snaps. Got a little bit more on Thursday than he did on Wednesday. I guess it all depends on what exactly it is that they're working on. But for example, there was a 2-minute drill, and it was all Mitch and Mason. Now, Mason on that one worked with second team offensive line, but some of the other stuff like the 7 shots, all first team offensive line sometimes it isn't. 7 shots one day, 3 and 3 and 1 on the breakdowns. Today, Thursday, 4. Let me do my math here. 4, 2 and 1 when it comes to, again, Mitch in there first, Mason second, and Kenny third. And it's been a mix. And a lot of times the first team and second team, you're not going to tell them apart, or they bring Mitch back out and Mason back out, and they run again with the second team offensive line and the full cycle and rotation of skill position players. So a lot of times you'll hear any of us say, one of these 3 quarterbacks is throwing the ball to Miles Boykin, for example. And that's because Boykin's in with all 3 of them and working with all 3 of them. And you got Chris Oladokin doing a lot of the individual drills, and he gets in there, and it's when they need pairs and they need to pair off the quarterbacks. But he's not doing a whole lot. I think he got in for some drills with the receivers on some of the defensive backs. They did some drills too, where it was like tight ends with the backers, or they're paired off. So one guy's going to throw on the right side, and then they're coming back to the left side, and everyone's going through lines, and they're kind of in order, like they're almost like school children to some degree. So again, when we're talking about, hey, 85, Jay Sternberger, he's out there and he's making a play, and so throw it to him. That's why there's not like a real first team, there's not like a real second team, and then there's just everyone else. And it's going to get kind of chopped up even more when they have to reduce the rosters, which they still do. And there's now down to 3 preseason games. So I think we have a cut to 80 by the following Monday. I want to say after the first preseason game, and then they cut down maybe to 75 or 70 after the second preseason game. And then, of course, the cut to the 53-man roster and the establishment of practice squads coming up. Oh, brought Jace back up. So anyways, let me go through some of my notes, see who I could end up talking good and bad about. I didn't write as much negative because I'm really not trying to come off as everything negative. If you had to put a gun to my head and ask me who the starting quarterback is as of today, Steelers need to pick somebody. Somebody has to go out there and play. Well, I'm going to tell you, it's not Mason Rudolph. Brought him up anyways. And that's not anything against Mason. I think if you absolutely had to go into battle today, it's got to be Mitchell Trubisky based on 50 starts and him being the leader in all of the various drills. However, it's still his job to lose. And there's been some good and there's been some bad. And I know some people have really been down on him. I know some people are like, what in the hell are they doing with Kenny Pickett? Look, I've been of the opinion that Kenny Pickett should sit out his first year. This is the way that this operated with Patrick Mahomes. This is the way Aaron Rodgers took like 3 seasons until he actually got on the field in season 4. But somebody actually came out. I think it was, oh man, you know what I'm going to say. It's going to be Pony or Madden, right? And it was Pony. He comes out and he says, if Mason Rudolph wins this, then the Steelers have failed. I can't agree with that. I'm 110% against that because this is the guy that you ended up drafting in 2018. You had a first round grade on him and you've developed him. It's like, why haven't they done anything? Why haven't they put anybody behind Ben Roethlisberger? Somebody that could learn and grow and yada, yada. And this is the guy. And then now they've drafted a guy in the first round and they've also signed the top free agent. You have the mix of the 3 things that every team tries to do in order to replace their former starting, maybe great quarterback. And you've got them all at the same time. So whichever one wins out on this, and of course it's not good for the rookie because you usually want them to go along slow. And just take it this way. Pickett, if he fell to 20, very Rodgers-esque, and ends up being a Rodgers type. But then again, Rodgers sat for a little while. I understand, and Brett Favre was there, but maybe there was a real development reason for that. And his first season was still, you got to get used to and acclimated to the pro game. And then we know where he's been. Only 1 ring. I know we tell him, you say he's overrated, but he's also $50 million quarterback. And doesn't throw a whole lot of interceptions, doesn't turn the ball over. Their team is always in it. But it just shows you how rare it is to win a Super Bowl, which is also the reason why I get on the Fire Mike Tomlin crowd. But anyways, if it took Mason 4 years to be able to get on the field and be a starter, so be it. This is the development process. You get a lot of folks that are saying, hey, Mitchell Trubisky, he played on a bad Bears team, that's baloney too. That Bears team had the top defense that one year when he made the Pro Bowl as an alternate, mind you, for Jared Goff. 24 touchdowns. Mitch has a high completion percentage. We also see all these quarterbacks are dumping off. That's their safety blanket. So we'll see. I like Mason's deep ball. I like Kenny's deep ball second. Trubisky, he had a nice one, I think, today too. So let me get into some of the notes, some of the things that I've seen, and we'll talk about some of the other players. I was talking about a 2-back set that I saw earlier. I had it written here, 69 and 53 alternating, then I scratched it off, but that actually did end up happening. So it was a little confusing to try and keep track of that. Of course, I had mentioned both days, no Najee Harris, no Chase Claypool, no Pat Freiermuth. You had the quarterbacks pair off. And again, I think it's really whittling down to a 2-quarterback race. Unless Kenny comes out of like left field, unless he comes out like one of these cars that just passes everyone, or in the back of the field and all of a sudden he jumps up to like number 1. It's going to have to do that with some preseason performances. We saw Josh Dobbs do that over Landry Jones. And I'm going to be interested to see what the Steelers do in the preseason and how they break things up. If they just have like Mitch do like 2 or 3 series and then Mason 2 or 3 series, or if they alternate them. But I really think it is just those 2 guys. It's not that they don't like Pickett. It's just that Pickett going to 20, they see what a lot of the other NFL teams saw. He might be the most pro ready, but he wasn't the guy that you're throwing a bunch of draft picks at and moving up to the top 5 in the draft in order to secure that player to start week 1. That's just not the way it is. So if he ends up being a steal, So be it. I have to put this out here too. I've said before, I feel like Mitch Trubisky could be the next Charlie Batch. Let me clarify. If Mason Rudolph doesn't end up being in the plans for the Steelers, that means next year he won't be on this team. And I think that means Kenny Pickett will be the starter and Mitch Trubisky ends up being the backup. And if we're in that scenario, we're going to be in for a rough 2022 season. Might still be competitive, might not be a losing season. 7 teams make the playoffs, but we're not talking Super Bowl contention. But we will see. I think a lot of people are sleeping on the Steelers defense and their offense for that matter. George Pickens. I got notes here for him all the time. He makes things look easy. I got Anthony Miller with exclamations. Great pass. This one was from Trubisky. Let's see. 89, Gunnar Oshevsky and Mason Rudolph. They have a chemistry. Gunnar is the player that I think we all wanted Ryan Switzer to be and didn't end up being that way. Very like Eli Rogers-esque, maybe even better. Really slippery. Really, really interesting guy. We have Kenny Pickett throwing. I said that he had a nice deep ball. There it was right here. Oladokin was involved in a couple of these, but underthrew and overthrew. He's just not getting the time in to get the timing in with these players. And he's on a whole different clock than everyone else, which is what's kind of odd in all of this, is how much more in sync Mason is kind of with everyone, where Trubisky is like hot and cold, where he has some good streaks and then he might miss one or two here. We're still expecting perfection when this is practice. Practice makes perfect. So I'm trying, don't take that as Trubisky sucks. That's not quite where I'm going with this. Quite the mention too of the first team offense. 87. Kevin Rader. 15. Cody White. Kelvin Austin. Benny Snell. They're in there with Mitch Trubisky. I believe this could have been 7 shots. This was an incomplete pass. There was a short corner pass that Anthony Miller came down with. NFL referees were there both of the last 2 days. They're there in shorts, but they got the stripes. They're even throwing flags and blowing whistles. So we got some penalties over the last couple of days. We got some rulings as to whether or not somebody was out of bounds or we had a completed catch. We had a touchdown. So all of these things are good stuff. This was a great play between Mitch Trubisky. I believe he rolled to his left and found Miller in the back corner end zone. Pretty quick play. Let's see, Kelvin Austin, and let me see. We actually had a drop by George Pickens, believe it or not. And Mitchell Trubisky had a whole lot of time out there. McFarland was one of his backs in this play. Let's see, Mason Rudolph, he got out there with Boykin, Mateo Durant, who wears 30 now, the old James Conner number, and also, let's see, Kelvin Austin, Gunnar Oshevsky. I have a lot of pump fakes. He tried to find Gunnar, but was out of bounds. So let's see, who else do I have on here as I run out of breath? Lots of pump fakes. 85 and 40. 40 would be Jalen Warren, as I mentioned before, Jay Sternberger with 85. We have a play action pass set up here with Mason Rudolph, and he ends up connecting with Steven Sims. And this was another borderline toe tap. Referee says touchdown, says it's inbounds. So that was some good work there as well. Let's see. Sorry, I tend to do that, the little clicking thing. Mason Rudolph also found Mateo Durant for a touchdown, and we also had Kenny Pickett's lone 7 shots attempt on Wednesday was a shovel pass to Connor Hayward, which was a thing of beauty. I mean, it was a real, I don't want to say it was an easy play, but it was set up really brilliantly. And I thought, I really like Hayward. He has really, really impressed me throughout this whole thing. There was something interesting that was said. It might have been Dale Lawley or his co-host. I'm trying to think who was with him, but he had said, if this guy's name was anything else, like Stevens or Smith or something, would they have drafted him? And that's kind of the way I had felt too during the initial process, but just throw all that out the window with the whole nepotism and the namesake type thing. Minicam is for real. I have to say, you put him on the field, and I don't think they just know what they're going to do with him. And even if it's like 5-6 yard chunks, these are chunks that the Steelers struggled to get last season. It will be better for their offense. A dangerous throw to Gunnar Oshevsky and a tight grab from Trubisky to Gunner. I also have one of my favorites, again, Tyler Vaughn. I think is it Tyler Vaughn or Tyler Vaughn's? But number 80, he's practice squad bound because the Steelers are loaded at wide receiver. It's going to come down to Miles Boykin or Anthony Miller for probably what will be a 6th spot, unless they have Calvin Austin returning and they cut Gunner for some reason. But Gunner's been solid as a receiver too, and we know the Steelers, they have a history of keeping 6 wide receivers on the roster. But with 2 rookies, you're going to want to have probably someone that's at least a veteran. So I'm going to say between Miller and Boykin, and they were running some special teams as gunners, because you need the guys at the bottom end of this. I don't want to say bottom end of the roster, but bottom end of the depth chart. If they're not your starters, more than likely they're going to have to offer something with special teams as well. So Boykin, Miller, they're out there doing that, which we're not sure that they've done a lot of that in their career. Miller's still just, he's passing the eye test. He's becoming a favorite of just about everyone. Got Cody White out here with the Mitchell Trubisky pass where he beats James Pierre. I'm not going to dump a whole lot on James Pierre because his last 2 days looked a lot better than what he gets beat sometimes. But again, we're talking about who's he matched up with, and we're talking about backups. So can't have all stars at every position. This one, he does get beat by Cody. Cody White's looked good too, probably headed to the practice squad, as I would think so myself. Miles Boykin, however, is in year 3 or year 4 of his original rookie deal, since he was originally claimed off of waivers from the Steelers, and he's not a tenured NFL player just yet. You got to be 5 or more. He'll go to waivers. He may not clear through waivers, so that's why I'm not giving him necessarily the initial consideration as to whether or not he would be an unrestricted free agent. So he's still on that original deal, and I believe that's the way the legalese on that works, folks. We had some all rotating stuff with both Mitch and Mason with the receivers versus the defensive backs. And then, as I mentioned before, Pickett and then Oladokin also got in there and got some quality work in with tight ends and the running backs, and they were being covered by linebackers. So that was kind of fun to watch. We had, we had a one-on-one once again with Anthony Miller. He wins just straight up grown-ass man stuff. George Pickens. What a grab. And any lesser a player, this one came from Trubisky too, and this was a rifle. This was some of Mitch's best work so far in camp. Any lesser a player, though, probably would have dropped this. This thing was just fired in, and George got almost like the 2-arm bear hug on the ball, so it's not going to go anywhere. A lot of people are thinking a lot of big things for Pickens. He's got all the tools. He checks all the boxes. Just got to get him in on games. Will he be a natural and be out there week 1, first snap? I'm not so certain about that based on how Mike Tomlin has held rookies back in the past. But if they need him, he's going to be out there. When you have Diontae back in the fold already, and now he's starting to get work because he signed the extension, 2-year extension, 3-year contract, because they kind of ripped up this final year of his deal and tacked on to show him some of that money. When you got those guys, and again, Pickens, Austin, Miller, maybe even Gunner, it's going to be interesting to see the way this is all kind of distributed with the snaps when we get into some real games. So just to kind of throw that out there. Kenny Pickett, J.J. Sternberger, deep diving grab. And then they switched off, and Tomlin was mostly on the other field watching the linebackers in coverage during this particular point. That's kind of important to say as we see kind of a rotation of Robert Spillane in with Miles Jack and Devin Bush. I don't really have anything ill to say about Bush. The plays that Bush gets beat on are the same plays that Spilly or Jack get beat on as well. It's just when you get a mismatch on a linebacker. So understand that. It's, again, not dumping on anybody. Kenny had some different work here. I have a note that his timing was off a little bit. We get Mitchell Trubisky back over with the other group, so they're going back and forth with all of this. You had a nice, once again, got to say, this one was Miles Boykin. I was thinking maybe it was Anthony Miller. Got to read my chicken scratch. But he had a nice back corner toe tap. So he's coming down with some of these. He has something that the other players on this team don't necessarily have, and that's that he's 6'4". A lot of the guys are a lot smaller. Anthony Miller, I think, is at 5'11" or maybe 7 feet even. Boy, wouldn't that be something? 6 foot even. Sorry. Let me get Sorry here. I'm going to get a nice ice cold beverage here. So apologies there. When I'm running solo and I'm doing all this, appreciate your support. We got good hands from Connor Hayward, once again from Trubisky. Multiple flags thrown at Ahkello Witherspoon. The Spoon was having trouble covering Calvin Austin. Don't think that doesn't get noticed. And then I also try to mark who's out there on defense against Trubisky. So Devin Bush, Robert Spillane. Like I said, TJ Watt wasn't necessarily out there. Cam Hayward wasn't out there. So you had Derek Tuska, Chris Wormley, Isaiah Loudermilk in this group with Montrevious Adams wearing the 57 Hines varieties. 35, Arthur Millette getting some work out there. A little more than what I saw in the first week. Of course, he plays a lot of nickel corner, but as does Cam Sutton. And then let me see. Who else do we have here on the starters? No Levi Wallace. So I'm trying to think who else. Levi Wallace, Cam Sutton. I think DeMonte Casey, but I'm going to verify his number. I think right now he is sharing numbers with, let me make sure I got this correct. And I apologize. Sometimes I get a brain fart here. Casey is wearing 24 along with Benny Snell. So not just a hat rack sometimes, folks. Ended up getting that one correct. Casey has been actually pretty damn impressive in his own right too. Here we got a shot of him in some drills catching balls. He's been all over the place. I believe he's forced some turnovers or had some near interceptions. He's going to be something else. I'm waiting to see Minka get back on the field and how they end up working Casey in with Edmonds. But right now he's been exclusively working in Minka's free safety spot as Edmonds is the strong safety. So just something of note. We've also had some rotations in with like Ulysses Gilbert. I have Millette put in here again because Millette is getting some work. You don't necessarily see him. And Donovan Steiner, he's been getting out there. Carlins Platel, we've mentioned him a couple of times. I think he's making a push to make this team. Nearly picked off Mitch Trubisky earlier too. Right off the top of my head, I'm remembering this. So you have some second team players on the offensive line as well. So Kevin Dotson ends up over on the second team and he's out there with LeGlue and JC Hassenauer and some of those fellas. And I wanted to mention too, during the course of this, it looks like Nate Gillum has been running the third team center. I'm still waiting to see some things maybe with Chris Owens. And Joe Haig looks to be the primary swing tackle also in a lot of these rotations. Master Teague had a nice run. They signed him, he was immediately there, so they must have called him the night before knowing they might need him, and then they made it official. It was like, hey, grab your bags. I'm not sure if he's local or if he's like maybe still in the Columbus, Ohio area or something of that nature, maybe 3-4 hour drive for him. So pack your bags, get your ass over to Latrobe. Let's see. So I mentioned Gillum. Oh man, punters. The punters may have some battles here. I got all kind of notes about special teams. Special teams is going to win these guys roster spots, so don't make any mistake about that. But I thought they got Cameron Niza-Alec. He's the guy that's there competing with Presley Harvin III, and Mike Tomlin was front and center for this one, and he is just totally like, you go, there you go, Cam, there you go, Cam. He was fired up. There's some nice punts. He's got distance. He's got the hang time. There was a shank, but I think they were working on directional stuff. Harvin had a shank there too, but Harvin, you could still see the inconsistency here or there. And if this creeps up in the preseason, I'm not sure that his job is necessarily safe. The seat is getting warmer. If the other guy, who actually, what did he play? 4 games, I think, last year with the Atlanta Falcons. He's been with the Falcons the last 2 years. And of course, with all the pandemic stuff, expanded practice squads and kind of an emergency punter if somebody tested positive for COVID and couldn't play in a game. And Niza-Alec, another Cam. He's out there and he's still wearing 4, and they got him listed as 16, which is what the other backup kicker is wearing, the backup to Chris Boz, who... Sorry, Boz just signed this. I mean, it might put something together that some other teams could see. This is how Boswell ended up with the Steelers. He was in camp with the Houston Texans, if you remember. I heard overheard somebody talking about it. Man, it must really suck. And it's like, no, it doesn't really suck. This is a very volatile group when you're the specialists. And well, I'm already talking about how Harvin could be in and out like within a year. We've seen it happen with the revolving door before the Steelers found Boswell that one year. Remember Josh Scobie, Garrett Hartley. He got hurt. I wasn't exactly thrilled, but they were looking for somebody that was a veteran. I wasn't, so I understand when they brought him in. But then when they found Boz, it's like Boz is now like tied with Tucker as the highest paid kicker in the NFL. And generally, those guys are like the new Troy Polamalu and Ed Reed when you're talking about Ravens and Steelers fans and who the good players are. So, oh, let's see. I got some more good stuff from Trubisky here. Got the first team offensive line in with Mason Rudolph. Had Mason kind of playing, they're all over the place with who's out there. Zach Gentry is out there with Mitch, but then you have Rader maybe with Mason. But then again, they also had McFarland and Snell out there with Mason too. I have that there was a nice completed pass to Gentry. I think I have another one to Anthony Miller, both from Trubisky. Incompletions. There was a 2-minute drill where Trubisky, and I think I might have this in at the very end of here, and I'm trying to see exactly who all. Gentry ends up beating Devin Bush. And I mentioned Jannard Avery too. There's a name. I'm glad I have him marked on here. 49 with a lot of this. He's been real slippery. He looks like somebody that has some decent pass rush skills. I'm curious to see how he contains the run, how he plays in pass protection. He's going to be one of those backup edge defenders with Derek Tuska this season. So these guys are important. They're backing up Alex Highsmith and TJ Watt. I haven't had a whole lot to say about Alex Highsmith, but without pads, these guys can't do a whole lot either. But TJ just still looks like an animal when he is out there. He's just been a freak of nature. What's the difference? But the 2-minute drills, Trubisky ends up finishing it. I know there was a little bit of complaining on the sidelines. The defense thought they got him maybe on like a 3rd down or so. Mason ends up running out of time, holding on to the ball a little bit longer than we would like. It worked out for Trubisky in the drill, and they end up scoring a touchdown. Didn't work out for Mason as he tries to force something as time expires. But these guys are taking some shots. They most certainly are. Got some more notes jumping into, that was the Wednesday stuff only, folks. So I got a little bit more for you. Hang around. Let's see. Yeah, Levi Wallace was back on the practice field. I got Isaiah Loudermilk getting a little bit more kind of first team reps with Cam Hayward out there. So that's kind of an interesting thing. Cam, in and out, as you notice, he was in some sweats. So not necessarily kind of a day off for him. He wasn't doing all of the big team drills and stuff like that. And that's not too uncommon, as Mike Tomlin, he had some fun out there. I mean, Mike Tomlin, he makes me want to sweat. And I'll tell you why. Guy's always wearing black hat, black long sleeve shirt, and black sweats. He's like dressed like the Grim Reaper, like Johnny Cash, man in black, head to toe. Love the Aviators, man. But God, man, Mike, that was the next photo up in the slideshow. I had to use it. So anyways, we had some 7 shots. I tried to make some notes of who all was out there. The defense did have Akella Witherspoon and Cam Sutton. We had Miles Jack, Devin Bush, Terrell Edmonds, Arthur Millette, and DeMonte Casey. Alex Highsmith up front with Adams, Wormley, Derek Tuska. So that's what you're dealing with a lot of the 7 shots. There are some rotations depending on what they have out there. You had a nice short TD to Kelvin Austin. Nice little slant in to start the 7 shots from Mitch Trubisky. Fires it in there. Those are the type of plays you used to see Antonio Brown, even Juju Smith-Schuster with Big Ben. Still in the arsenal, still looking very sharp. Good stuff. Can't complain whatsoever. It's exactly what you would like to see from the Pittsburgh Steelers. And Matt Canada's offense here getting underway. You do have an errant pass from Trubisky out the back of the end zone. Incomplete. There was a run play. Benny Snell gets stuffed. There was a ton of flags. I think the flags would have been for holding by the offense as well. Had a couple false starts. Also had some defensive pass interference. Things were a little sloppier in the heat. It rained in Latrobe early before practice kicked off. So it was it got like really damp and muggy, and it was nasty. And it has like that smell where it's like you walk into like a used Porta-John or something like that. It was just, oh, what a muggy day. Just sucked. So I can understand like the fatigue in that. It got to some of the players. That's the reason why there were some flags, and there were a ton of them on this one. Had McFarland, Connor Hayward, George Pickens, and Diontae Johnson, who's wearing 18. Oh, I hadn't seen that guy out there with Mitch Trubisky. And Trubisky almost gets picked trying to target McFarland in the flat. I didn't catch who the DB was. My gut instinct tells me that it was Witherspoon based on the side of the field it was on, but could have easily been Cam Sutton since he was out there as well. Mason Rudolph ends up coming out now after those 4 of the first 7 shots. He has a corner fade attempt go incomplete for Miles Boykin. Good play by James Pierre here. They played the boundary, and Boykin doesn't end up coming up with it and able to keep the feet down in the corner. And then, let's see, Mason was out there with Steve Sims, Kevin Rader, Derek Watt, Miles Boykin, and Jay Sternberger. So once again, a 2 tight end set, 12 personnel. And he finds Sternberger for a wide open. He just kind of squirts out, like chips a guy, squirts out. Easy touchdown. It's the stuff you like to see. And it wasn't the primary route unless Mason was looking off of it, which is entirely possible. So again, a lot of the head fakes, the pump fakes here, and it pays off for 6. Kenny Pickett gets the last rep here, and this was a beautiful corner fade. I believe this was Cody White. I think the guys at Steelers Nation Radio actually got this one wrong, but in their defense, it's on the far side of the field from where they're looking in, the far side of the corner from where they're situated. So I had White down. They were thinking maybe it could have been Boykin. I think almost solidly that it was White. This comes from Kenny Pickett, who was also out there with Sims and Gentry, Jalen Warren. Nice corner fade. Don't have who was in coverage. You had some different shots here now as you're working with wide receivers, DBs, one-on-ones, and Diontae Johnson just totally smokes whoever was covering him. Mateo Durant, I have a note that he has very nice soft hands. Near pick of Mitchell Trubisky, this time Carlins Platel, and this one was going for Gentry. He was up against the big tight end and it nearly does a Mike Hilton Mighty Mouse type of play. Platel, by the way, I want to bring his name up just one more time. Let's see if I can find him in the list. No, not Master Teague. We've already found Master Teague. Let's see, Platel, also wearing number 30, sharing it with Jalen Warren. Decent-sized guy, 6'1", 205. So it's giving him a little bit. Obviously, he looks smaller than a 6'7", Zach Gentry. So pretty much the way you would not expect that to happen. Kind of funny when you're taking a look at tight ends versus just a corner. And really well played by Platel, and it's not the only one that he had throughout this camp. So very much looking forward to seeing some more from him, especially in the preseason. We got Durant getting a real nice catch, kind of a wheel route type situation from Mason Rudolph. A lot of these passes with Mason, they are very much rhythm passes. They're in stride for the players. The players end up coming back to the ball, which is nice to see in some of the cases. Or Mason is finding time, the right time to release and uncork it into spots into windows where only they can catch it. So that's pretty nice. We also had a nice little play with Kenny Pickett to Connor Hayward, and I have a note that Connor pushed off and got away with it. But he comes out with the ball, getting a lot of use. James Pierre ends up denying Anthony Miller, who I've done nothing but rant about. This was a Kenny Pickett pass, and it wasn't an errant throw. This was a nice play by the corner, James Pierre. I have a note about KZ and coverage once again as well. Mason Rudolph lets one out to Anthony McFarland. And this was a very nice little play where we would like to see McFarland do some things. We've always talked about him the last couple of years. Here you see it. This was using his speed to beat Devin Bush, who was pretty tight in coverage, I must say. So this altogether was a very nice hookup between number 2 and number 26. I have another note about Diontae smoking 42 James Pierre, and this one was from Mason Rudolph for the completion. Mason gets it over as well to Jalen Warren, who had a very nice set of days or week as we'll say. And then Mason also finds Kevin Rader again. And I had to note about Kevin Rader making the combat catches. And also Anthony Miller makes one as well. And this one was a comeback where he had to fight for it also. So they're not getting necessarily the separation with just using their speed and athletic ability, and guys are coming back to the ball, or Mason's putting it there where he's not necessarily being telegraphed. This is the reason why I had Jaylen Warren queued up here as well. We think there was a fumble on a handoff, bad exchange between Kenny Pickett and Warren at one point, and the defense was going absolutely bananas over it. So those things happen, not necessarily going to make a mountain out of a molehill on it. I got Platel's name on here again. I mentioned how Boykin and Miller are being used as gunners on special teams. Kendrick Green, he's in that battle. Again, at left guard, he's out there. Arthur Millette gets involved too. Almost near interception on Mitch Trubisky, so he's reading his mind. He had a really nice Mitchell Trubisky play following this up as he scrambles out of the pocket and finds Calvin Austin for a really nice deep shot. And unfortunately, this particular one didn't sync up. It was a little bit overthrown, but the reason why I made note of it wasn't to say that it was necessarily overthrown. This was Ben Roethlisberger-esque of extending the play and having Trubisky roll out to his right and go downfield to the speedy Austin. Just kind of thought he was a little faster than maybe he actually is on this particular play. Once again, Miles Boykin, nice out route with Mason Rudolph. The timing was definitely there. Mason finding Tyler Vaughn for another comeback timing route. I got a lot of this. I think that maybe this was the focus maybe with the wide receivers, possibly. There was a play that Mason Rudolph gets absolutely blown up on, and the offensive line just kind of crapped the bed. And you'll even hear the SNR guys say that, well, that really wasn't Mason's fault. And to the point where he didn't really even get the rep or the play. This series was just kind of blown dead really bad by the, I believe, second team offensive line that was in there. And I mentioned that the defense also gets a near fumble. Diontae Johnson. Mike Tomlin's not going to be happy about some of this today. He's going to be happy that the defense is eating, feasting, but the offense has got to protect the ball. Had about somewhere between 3 to 5. It was either near calls or actual calls in the turnover column throughout Thursday's practice. Beautiful fake on the handoff by Kenny Pickett. He hands off to Anthony McFarland, who shows his speed and would have taken this one to the house. For those of you who remember Darius Hayward-Bay having these end-round type plays, this was right out of this playbook, and the defense, hook, line, and sinker, bought that Kenny, he hit the ball beautifully. Probably faked some cameramen as well. And I have to mention again, KZ, with a near pick. This was Jace Sternberger that he was up against. And that will conclude my notes for training camp. I'm trying to think if there's anybody I missed. I probably covered a lot of people multiple times over. This was our late week podcast for the Steel City Underground show. So we appreciate everyone listening. Again, beautiful artwork here in out in Latrobe, actually in Greensburg, just staying right next door. So, and one beautiful note for my 2%ers that were out there. Sir, if you're listening to this, please don't pee off of your porch. Yeah, took a back road out as there was a lot of traffic exiting the parking lot. And there was a guy on the porch just kind of doing his business, shooting the rainbow there. So maybe he doesn't have functional plumbing. I thought, and in all fairness to my Latrobe and Greensburg folks, I believe this was in Unity. You can let me know if there's some type of cultural differences here. And if it was you, sir, it's just, there were a lot of cars that were coming out of there, and there were people that were following me. I feel bad for the children who had to see this. So just get all the sights and the sounds of Pittsburgh Steelers training camp. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Sorry if I'm scatterbrained with some of the notes. Kind of putting this together on the road is a little more different than being in my usual studio, but like I said, this has been a lot of fun. Love the support, love the appreciation from all of you out there in Steelers Nation. So once again, My name is Joe Kuzma, and we'll be back at you after Friday Night Lights, after the weekend. Going to have some more notes, going to get to see some more stuff, and then the Steelers are going to get their chance for a preseason game, and we're going to start asking some questions about what would we expect to see next week. So we'll have a lot of notes and a lot of content coming your way. Don't forget, once again, to subscribe to the program. No matter where you are, we appreciate you, and each and every time as we close out this show, sincerely, I do mean it, we encourage all of our viewers and listeners out there to be safe, be good, and we'll catch you later.
We would like to thank you for listening and remind our listeners to follow us on social media and our website, www.steelcityunderground.com.